This is not Bowser. You may think this is just your regular Mario boss battle, but you'd be very, very wrong. For years, Nintendo has been secretly rewriting history, erasing member after member of Bowser's secret extended family. This guy may seem simple, I know. Bowser just lashes out and kidnaps cause he's an evil guy. Bowser lies and manipulates his only son because yeah, that plumber was getting on his nerves today. It's a kid's game, it's not that deep.
And could you be right in saying that? Maybe. Nintendo has desperately tried to make it seem this way nowadays, but if you take a closer look at what's hidden inside the series' early games, you'll find that maybe there was supposed to be a little bit more to this character.
It's the climax after a long, grueling adventure. Okay, maybe not so long and grueling at times. Everyone's favorite plumpy, powered-up plumber squares off against the King of the Koopas. The catalyst behind all of this trauma. The reason why the Mushroom Kingdom is in chaos. And the battle begins. Fire, hammers, spikes, barrels, a hat with boxing gloves. Everything under the sun is thrown at Mario to stop him from achieving his goal. Stop him from saving the princess. But he fails. In game after game after game, Mario hits the switch, he saves Peach, he saves the kingdom, Bowser falls to his doom.
Failing to achieve his goal over and over. This has got to be frustrating for Bowser, overwhelming even. And before we find out the extreme measures that's going to be taken by this character, I've got to say that sometimes we all kind of feel this way, right? I mean, we don't all take out our anger in this way, but I feel if this video's sponsor BetterHelp was around in 1985, Bowser could have gotten a better handle on this. Look, I might not be trying to conquer a kingdom, but with working classes ramping up, sometimes the stress kicks in and you feel like you're almost at that breaking point and you need someone to talk to. And from my personal experience, I'm telling you, it really can make a difference, and BetterHelp is currently the best way to do it. After you answer a few easy questions, they match you up with one of their trained professional therapists who can perfectly suit your needs. Whether you're feeling depressed, grieving the loss of a loved one, struggling to get that relationship sorted out, or, like our boy Bowser, potentially all of the above, BetterHelp is there for you, allowing for weekly sessions to be scheduled through phone, video call, or if you're more comfortable with just a texting chat, they offer that too. If you don't think you need it now, take it from me, you never know what tomorrow might bring, and it might just come in clutch when you need it the most. And by using my link in the description, you not only support this channel, but it also gets you 10% off your first month of BetterHelp, so you can connect with a therapist and see if it helps you.
They say practice makes perfect. But when they said that, they weren't talking about Bowser. Things seem all over for the King of the Koopas. Except, it really isn't. Bowser's persistent, he'll get his chance to try again. It's just if Nintendo has anything to say about it, he'll never actually be successful in stopping Mario. It's a formula that's worked since 1985. A simple one, but one that hasn't needed much change. Super Mario Bros. Is the first game where we saw this structure. It's the game that sparked Nintendo's home console boom, and it's the game we keep calling back to year after year, whether it's thrown right in your face or not. The winning formula, the most well-known and iconic hero versus villain matchup in the history of the video game industry, and one that the company would be foolish to change until they did. The very next year. These fights may all look the same, but one of these things is not like the others. And no, I'm not talking about that one. Releasing in Japan as Super Mario Bros. 2, but known to us better as the Lost Levels, this game, outside of being more difficult with different level layouts, was pretty much the same as the original Mario Bros. Well, except for this guy. This Bowser, this one, is blue. Yeah, big deal, Siiroth. So what that he's a slightly different color here? You don't know his life like that. After getting thrown in the lava, maybe he had to go get a new shell. Maybe Nintendo wanted Bowser to be a darker color because that's what he was supposed to be to begin with. Or maybe, and here's something, maybe they just made a development mistake because it was the video game industry in freaking 1986. Hell, this sprite can even be recreated in the original Mario Bros. Through glitching. Well, I would have thought this, but oh my god. The Nintendo Player's Guide for the Lost Levels reads, and I quote, "You're in for a surprise, Bowser's got a twin." Yeah. Bowser has a brother, and he was hiding in plain sight all along. This is a huge deal, and this has been out there forever, but why does nobody talk about this today? The weird thing about this is the original 2 Super Mario games contained a lot of these fake Bowsers. These guys take on the appearance of Bowser, they look and act like him, but are revealed to actually just be regular enemies in disguise to fool Mario. The key difference with this guy, outside of just being blue, is in 2 out of his 3 fights in the game, after being defeated, there's no enemy that gets revealed. No hidden minion beneath the mask. Confirming, even before this player's guide came out later, that this guy is in reality a completely different character than regular Bowser. Pretty good cover for that programming glitch, Nintendo. The original Japanese manual for the game, right when it came out, said that he's another member of the Bowser species. It makes fun of the reader for thinking that he's a twin, suggesting inaccuracy in the player's guide. But this is also said in a joking fashion, so who knows for sure. My 5 Japanese Duolingo lessons can only carry so far. But without a shadow of a doubt, what it does do is prove he's not the same guy. The Japanese guide for the All-Stars edition of the Lost Levels refers to him as Bowser's little brother, another guide calling him the first of the Bowser brothers. Multiple sources from the time all saying the same thing. Bowser's had a bro for all this time, but since then, he's never, ever been seen. For almost 4 decades, Bowser would never get to see his brother. But wait, isn't that... Bowser's 8th costume in the Super Smash Bros. Series is blue, an actual modern reference to Bowser's brother, right? A Bowser imposter. In Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, Mario fights a blue, fake Bowser before the real thing. That blue fake is his 8th color in this game. Fake? That's not right. Back then it was undisputed that this guy was meant to be Bowser's brother, not just any old fake. Okay, maybe we can let this pass, since one of his 3 fights in the original game is clearly a fake, but then what's this? The Mario Encyclopedia website, which lists every character that appears in Mario 2, shows Bowser, fake Bowser, and when translated to English, Bowser Blue. Huh. Nintendo went from being so eager to share with the world that this little blue palette swap they most likely accidentally created was a brand new, significant character 40 years ago, but now they've completely reversed their stance. Why? What would cause Nintendo to just cast him aside like that? Have no mention of him come from Bowser or anyone else since then at all? It seems like Bowser's brother is starting to be completely erased from history. The start of what we'll find out is a broken, depressing family tree takes its first loss just 1 year in. And as we uncover more of these forgotten characters today, it's only going to get worse. We need to find out why this treatment happened to Bowser's brother in the first place. This is a mission that I have to accept. And when I say have to, As we go further along the timeline, consider if it's possible that we actually haven't seen the last of him after all. Bowser's despair over his familial split probably hasn't hit too much just yet, but frustration is beginning to set in. He couldn't defeat Mario on his own, and he still couldn't defeat him with the help of his baby brother. Was his own family not even enough to get the job done? I mean, it worked for Mario. As we'll see, this one failure hasn't yet deterred King Koopa about the importance of family to his success. To him, calling in just one family member wasn't enough. Maybe he'd need 7. 1998's Super Mario Bros. 3 saw the debut of Larry, Morton, Wendy, Iggy, Roy, Lemmy, and Ludwig. Thanks, Smash Brothers. These guys were known as the Koopalings, and as we'll find out, are characters who may go on to suffer the most tragic fates of all. Sent off in airships through the Mushroom World with the mission to transform the kings of each region into wacky animals with their now iconic magic wands, and of course, stop Mario in his tracks. And well, they'd at least give it an effort, man. Whether it's Larry shooting magic, Wendy bouncing rings, or Lemmy launching his balls at you, ayo, each of these guys had something unique to offer. Except for a couple that were kind of copy-paste, but we'll forget about that. Don't think we don't see you over there, Morton Koopa Jr. They had personality too. highlighted in the Adventures of Mario 3 cartoon where they bicker amongst one another. And sure, they weren't the most devastating boss battles ever seen. Sure, they weren't Kaizo Dark Souls levels of crazy, and sure, they weren't on the level of Bowser, but that's to be expected because they're not seasoned veterans of the game yet. After all, the Koopalings aren't just any old enemies. They're Bowser's children. No debate about it this time. Both in the English and Japanese original manuals for Mario 3, it explicitly says, these are Bowser's kids. Wait, if Bowser can't have kids on his own, then who's the... They may have come up short in their goal in Mario 3. They and Bowser get defeated once again in the end, but Bowser believes in his children, and he rewards them with a second chance in the next mainline entry of the series, Super Mario World, by throwing them out into battle against the same guy who whooped them last time. Now, with deadly lava they can fall into. Good parenting, Bowser. I mean, it should be fine. They've got these new fancy 16-bit sprites now. The glow up is in effect, and I'm sure he's equipped them with new weapons and moves since last time. One by one, each Koopaling falls to their demise, each plunging into the molten hot lava, melting away as Mario stands tall, the victor. And for what? Bowser's conducted a new master plan to use a gigantic mechanism known as the Koopa Clown Car to aid in his last stand against Mario. The grand final battle commences. Fire, mechs, magic, all used and all still fail. Mario wins yet again. The princess is saved, but now Bowser's Koopalings aren't just dazed after getting a few stomps on the head. Not a little loopy from a tussle with the Koopa Clan's key troublemaker, no. Now, there's actual suffering. Pain that seemed surprisingly permanent. As after Mario World in 1990, the Koopalings would no longer be seen for the foreseeable future, meeting an eerily similar fate to that of Bowser's brother. It makes you wonder, what reasons would a father have to show complete disregard for the safety of his own children like this? What would have been done to that individual to have these actions seem like normal behavior to them? The only way for me to truly find that answer is to look at who raised Bowser in the first place. Who helped mold him to be the way he is? Who is the mastermind, or masterminds behind all of this? The characters that Nintendo really don't want you to see. Starting with the big one. This is Bowser's mother in the Super Mario Bros. Super Show. In the episode, Do You Princess Toadstool Take This Koopa? Well, the plot's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it, huh? Bowser has blackmailed the princess into agreeing to marry him, but the big guy, surprise surprise, doesn't have any friends to invite to the wedding. His closest advisor, Mouser, suggests that he invite his mother, as she's probably the only one who would want to actually see this happen. Very supportive there, Mouser. She arrives, bold, loud-mouthed, arrogant, but impeccably dressed, and suggests that King Koopa do the same. He reluctantly agrees, goes to put on some nice clothes, but he forgets that his magic scepter behind, leaving a perfect opportunity for Mario and Luigi to run in, fight back, and clutch save the princess before she can say the fateful words, "I do." It's a simple plot, but one that says a lot in a short period of time. TLDR, Bowser's mother inadvertently stops Bowser from marrying Peach. Koopa's filled with shock, dismay, despair, and resentment. How can you get this close and your own mother is the one that stops you? The only other glimpse we get of her is in Mario's Time Machine Deluxe, of all games, where she serves as the city's librarian, but not many more details of their relationship dynamic can be discerned from this very brief appearance. It just doesn't seem like the most healthy relationship out there, but it could have very well been an accident. They happen. We're gonna need more to go off of than this one bad day that got captured when the cameras happened to be rolling. So let's find one bad day captured of someone else's life. Bowser's father is only mentioned briefly in the series. In comics released from 1991 through 1992, he's referred to in passing on two separate occasions. First, it's become known that he was supposedly a criminal on the run. Bowser tells this to a Toad that he's captured, who's been pleading, begging with him to be able to see his father. An incident that likely sparked something deep inside of Bowser to cause him to share this rare, personal detail about his past. Something he almost never does. Second, it said that Bowser's father was the one who taught him the lesson of so long as you put your mind to it, there's no problem too big to run away from. Yeah, kinda ironic, huh? This character is shown to have had negative influences on society. He's a criminal and undoubtedly normalized doing wrong for Bowser in childhood, intentionally or not, because it's not like Bowser has completely severed ties with his dad. It's not like him hiding on the run was this traumatic incident so hurtful to Bowser because he still talks about him with reverence. Why else would he go out of his way to bring up a motivational piece of advice that this guy gave him? Bowser saw his father as a role model. We don't know what crimes he committed, we don't know what young Bowser actually saw, but what we do know is that his son has gone on to commit a fair share of crimes on his own. But growing up, you're not really just raised by your parents. What could have had just as much impact is the company you choose to keep, and Bowser has clearly grown up alongside some other Koopas. One being at the forefront of our investigation that we still need to solve the mystery of, but there's another who I don't see brought up a lot either. His sister. The existence of a Bowser sister is only mentioned briefly in a Nintendo released song in 1991. Yes, this was an official thing to promote literacy for kids. Want to hear some? Really? Are you sure? Okay. In the song Ignorance is Bliss, Bowser, when singing, says the line, "You remind me of my kid sister." With not much known about her other than that she liked to read and was considered, to him at least, to be a bit of a brainiac. The only time she is brought up ever in the series' history, which is kinda odd when you think about it, isn't it? Look, Bowser only gets so much screen time, especially up until this point. If this jug of water represents Bowser's time spent on talking about different things, then after it's all said and done, how much space really is there to add another character to the mix? Especially one with a significant familial bond to him. But I can't help but find it telling that the only time he does mention his sister, it's in a negative, almost envious light. Kinda like she was growing up in these same circumstances, the unconventional childhood, seeing the criminal influences and doing it while being so perfect and studious. I mean, we certainly know Bowser isn't any of those things. He's coping with the fact that she got punished for reading too much by mentioning that she got a blister on her brain. From what we've seen, Bowser is not too fond of his sister, nor his mother, and his father, well, who even knows how long he was actually with him? Man's probably been waiting for years for him to come back with that milk. But around this time, there was one more character that Bowser likely knew who may have been just as significant. Known in the Nintendo Adventure books as Bowser's third cousin, twice removed. Very specific there, Nintendo. In the issue Flown the Koopa, this guy is the main villain of the story, using his magical powers to capture dinosaurs, shrink them down to a minuscule size, and zap them into his TV for entertainment because he couldn't afford cable. No, you can't make this stuff up. The fate of the dinos is placed in your hands, as this was one of those Reader's Choice books where you kind of flip through and control the story yourself. The memories with that, jeez, about to tear up. Remember that Bart Simpson Guide to Life thing? I'm probably dating myself here. The kids don't know about that one, but enough gushing, right? So what that Bowser has a third cousin twice removed? So what that he's evil and can use magic? So what? Who asked? Well, thanks for kindly expressing your concern. We don't even see him interact with Bowser at all, not a single time. How can this possibly explain Bowser's upbringing, mistreatment of his children, and why would Nintendo feel the need to go so far as to try to erase him from history? But do you notice anything about this guy? The design, face, hat, yeah, he's one of the Magic Koopas. While seen pretty much everywhere nowadays, the first time we saw these guys appear was Mario World in 1990, but this character is actually shown to be the first instance we see that confirms at least one of them has a direct blood relation to the King of the Koopas, likely giving backing and reasoning behind one of the most mysterious relationships the Mario series has ever seen. And with its reveal will begin the first mass exodus of the original family of Bowser. The shift to 1995, in turn, also saw a shift in direction for Nintendo with the Mario series. In preparation of their big new console release, the Nintendo 64, and saving Mario's next main journey for that, a brand new 2D game would be releasing this year, but unlike all the previous ones, this time starring a different protagonist, Yoshi. The sequel to Super Mario World, or I guess we might have to consider it a prequel as we'll come to find out, Yoshi's Island, is potentially the most pivotal game in the history of Mario lore, because it added this. Well, he was cool, but no, not him. No, not them either. I said no. This game actually shows Bowser's infancy, something never seen before. The story goes that baby Mario got dropped off in a field of Yoshis by a stork. Baby Luigi was supposed to be there too, but he got intercepted on the way by a swarm of Magic Koopas that took him to their lair. Apparently Luigi wasn't enough for these guys, as they unleash an army out to find the other, more important child. Poor Luigi. And well, Yoshi's gotta go on a quest to try and get him back. New and classic enemies alike populate this bright, colorful world, providing obstacle after obstacle for Yoshi to overcome until he finally comes face to face with the evil genius orchestrating all of this, Kamek. This guy appears just as any other old Magic Koopa. The evil cackles, the shrieks, the look, it's all the same, but this guy is even more important, taking on the role of raising who would be known at the time as Prince Bowser. This is the younger version of Mario's main antagonist. The future king of the Koopas is not so just yet. And well, can we discern any habits from a young age that would be carried over into adulthood from this game? During the glimpses we get of their interactions, baby Bowser is clearly a brat, downright abusing Kamek at times, despite his caring and undividing loyalty. What a surprise, Kamek probably just having to put up with it because he's royalty and, as we've seen, likely blood royalty as well. Is there something Kamek did to Bowser to make him act this way? Is Bowser really just naturally that bad? Or is this potentially the fault of the Magic Koopa in charge of raising him? And I can't help but think it's that option. Kamek uses his unique magical abilities to power up bosses to combat Yoshi, including Bowser himself, instilling a desire for power and a feeling of superiority to the other enemies in Prince Bowser from a very young age. This guy's being raised from his youngest years in an environment where evil is recognized as normal, where his every whim and desire is catered to, where any act of wrongdoing goes unpunished and sometimes even praised. That is, until he goes too far. The final battle with Yoshi commences. The stakes could not be higher. Baby Mario in tow and everything. Bowser begins by unleashing an onslaught of attacks, a fury of offense, but Yoshi retaliates, and Bowser tries to fight back against the big green egg-dispensing dinosaur, but it proves ineffective, and he loses, canonically, for the first time ever. Loss, an emotion likely never felt by this child before. That is until Kamek comes in for the save, enlarging the defeated prince into a now giant baby Bowser. And this guy sends everything at Yoshi. Giant rocks, fireballs, his ominous presence reaching closer and closer to the screen, but in the end, heroes emerge victorious again. Kamek has thrown his child into battle not just once before he was ready, but even after losing, he did it for a second time. Now, where have we seen that before? Kamek has manipulated baby Bowser into danger to try and stop an invader from achieving their goal. He's taught and instilled some nasty values into the psyche of the young prince while he waits for his real father to come home. But that's the thing. He never actually does. That milk has long since expired. Bowser describes his father in adulthood as on the run to the toad. But is that really true? We never actually see Bowser's father in the series before or afterwards, and Prince Bowser is confirmed at this point to be raised by Kamek into his adulthood. Is it possible that Kamek lied to Bowser, telling him that his daddy's coming back, telling him he needs to fight back against Yoshi for a second time because Bowser's all they have left? He's not the prince. His father's not coming back, and in reality, he's already the king of the Koopas. This is why the baby needs to be kept happy. This is why his every whim, every desire, every habit must be catered to. Because in reality, with his genes, his royal lineage, and the force that he already is, never mind what he'll eventually be, he's the best chance they've got to survive as a royal force right now. As tragic as that reality may be. Kamek has lied to Bowser as to the whereabouts of his father, something we'll see he'd never, ever forget. An important reality of the series is uncovered here, one that makes Bowser a much more compelling, fleshed out, and, to an extent, understandable character. But I don't think it's the narrative now that Nintendo would like you to go with. From this point on, Bowser's father, sister, and third cousin twice removed would all never, ever be mentioned again. Despite, in some cases, fitting in quite well with the overall story. They've been lost to time. Why just scrap characters like this? Well, to Nintendo, a simpler story would be a more marketable one to grow the company and make them more money. No game had been able to reach the heights of the original sales yet. The simplest of them all. That's just a fact. Bowser's mother also takes part in this mass exodus. Her not raising the baby and only coming back later on in his life could explain much of the strain and resentment in the relationship. You want to be at my wedding, but left me to be raised by a manipulative, cunning Magikoopa who was clearly not fit for the role of a parent? But this depth to the story isn't acknowledged anymore. Now Kamek just raised him. Everything else is non-canon. It never happened. The singular mastermind many have been looking for has been found. Pretty easy to just throw that out there, and a lot of fans have run with it, but not me. Terrorizing actions like this, throwing his kids out to the wolves, them and his brother still never to be seen, these things need actual explanations. But as of 1995, this is all we had. And as quickly as evidence could be gathered, a new source would try to erase the old stuff. It's like when I accidentally turn on that overprint thing on my keyboard. Just pain. But when all hope seemed to be bleak, a strange wrench was about to be thrown into the mix. Bowser's only got 7 kids, right? Or at least he had 7 kids before he, sacrificed them. But a massive new introduction happened in 1999. Mario Party would take the world by storm. A new way to interact with our favorite Mushroom Kingdom cast in a board game-esque fashion. You'll collect coins, buy stars, steal stars, all supervised by the King of the Koopas. And his children. Wait, what? These are the Koopa Kids, characters who directly refer to Bowser in the game as Dad. Yeah, this is a thing. They tend to cause chaos on the boards of the series, interfere in some minigames, and generally help their father out, becoming staples in this role for year after year after year, and maybe you've heard of them because of that. Maybe you saw a previous video like this I've done where I covered their complete story in depth, but it's very possible you haven't heard of them at all, because maybe you never played every single Mario Party. Fake fan. Maybe you're not an average Siiroth historian, or maybe it's because since Mario Party 7 in 2005, the Koopa Kids have never, ever appeared again. Bowser's treatment of his kids seems to be improved in these games, at least a step up from the dramatically low bar set anyway, like under lava low. They're still forced into some uncomfortable situations to do Bowser's dirty work, but are in exchange for this placed in an esteemed position, treated with importance, and seem to have fun causing this trauma to the players. It all seemed good. Nintendo's got a new series, and Bowser's got a new kid. A fresh start, but one that only lasted a short 6 years. And I don't think we're gonna have to wait too long to find out the real reason why. But one thing's first. The thing that still puzzles me about all of this, right? Bowser's got the 7 Koopalings, now these Koopa Kids, and several of them, but last I checked, this guy's a reptile. He's gotta breed to make babies, and no interrupting me when I'm trying to get it out this time. All this talk about Bowser's mother and father, who's their mother? Who's the one giving birth to all these Koopas, and what impact do they have on everything here? This has gotta be it, the key to solving these mysteries, and my key to get out of here. And I'm tired of waiting to find out. Super Mario Sunshine. Mario, Peach, and the gang are out to Isle Delfino for a well-deserved vacation. The warm, calming atmosphere, the tropical setting, everything was set up for a great time. Well, until Peach gets kidnapped again. Yeah, they really like sticking to the working formula, huh? But who would be the culprit this time? Kamek? The classic Bowser? Would seem likely, but surprisingly, it was instead revealed to be Mario himself? What? Nah, that can't be right. This isn't our hero, this is Shadow Mario. A new, never-before-seen character for this game that would seem to set us on a whole new path for the story of the series. A new wrench has been thrown into the mix. Who even is this guy, and what would he want with Peach? All important questions, but this time, ones that we'd get answers to right away. After Mario rids the island of its goop with the support of his newly acquired Flood and collects 10 Shine Sprites, Shadow Mario would finally reveal his true identity. Someone who would, on the surface, appear to be familiar to the audience, but one who would be much different in reality. Bowser's got another kid, one being disguised this whole time. This was Bowser Jr. Popping out of the head of a giant Mecha Koopa, Jr.'s first words has him utter something shockingly significant to Mario. Jr. reveals that he didn't kidnap the princess on his own volition. Rather, that he was told to do this, given direct orders from his father. The orders that described how Peach was his mother, kidnapped by a bad guy named Mario. Oh my. Does this explain so much of what we've been investigating so far? Is Princess Peach, the one who Bowser's been kidnapping in game after game after game, actually the mother of all these kids? Is this why Bowser is so desperate to get her back by any means necessary? To give his children back their mother, a mother that he didn't have much of a relationship with. And with Nintendo's new retcon, he may have never actually had at all. With his upbringing being mostly done by a lying, manipulative Magic Koopa. Well, this idea seems to only be partially true. Bowser may want Peach to fulfill a mother figure-like role for his family, but contrary to what Jr. says here, Princess Peach is not actually his mother. At the end of the game, after the final battle where, spoilers, King Koopa is defeated yet again, Bowser has an honest, open conversation with his son.
Junior, I've got something difficult to tell you about Princess Peach.
I know, she's not really my mama. Someday, when I'm bigger, I wanna fight that Mario again.
That's right, boy. Well put, son. The Royal Koopa line is as strong as ever.
Yeah, that was huge. Not only was Bowser about to confess lying to his son about his mother's identity, but Jr. had already figured it out himself by that point. Bowser has manipulated his child, given them a false sense of reality, but despite that, Jr. pushes through. He wants to keep fighting, despite clearly not knowing who his actual mother is, and potentially never finding out. Or maybe not. Our next mission may get us one step closer to the answer, but in doing so, send us 4 or 5 steps back in terms of the depth of Bowser's family. The official Nintendo narrative was about to change once again. A second mass exodus would be on the horizon. Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga would release in 2003. Finally a handheld installment on the Mario RPG front. Games that, at least back then, lent a lot more room for expression of these characters and their backstories. The dynamic duo of plumbers fought enemy after enemy after enemy on their adventure, once again clearing every obstacle in their way until... yeah. The Koopalings, thought to be cast aside and thrown to the wolves by Bowser, just as Nintendo did to F-Zero, are back. After more than a decade away, they survived. They've returned, and they're coming for Mario and Luigi. And while they, as usual, come up short in their efforts, this was still a massive W for them overall, for the fans, and for Nintendo, as from this point onwards, the Koopalings would be everywhere. Main villains for many of the highly successful New Super Mario Bros. Games, they take up like half the roster spots in the biggest Mario Kart game of all time, they'd be on every piece of merch imaginable, These guys were a big deal and have become staple, marketable characters aligning the pockets of Nintendo. But this came at a cost in its own right, a cost of the entire existence of some other characters. You see, as the Koopalings were regaining and then subsequently exceeding their former popularity, Bowser Jr. was just getting started, and he took off like a rocket ship too. This guy was slotted in as the #2 main Mario villain, only beneath Bowser himself, essentially being the leader of the Koopalings, or at bare minimum, a step above them. An interview with Mario series creator and director Shigeru Miyamoto would unveil 2 huge new details about the Bowser family lineage. First, that the current story was that the Koopalings are not actually Bowser's children, contradicting the direct text from the Mario 3 manual 20 years prior. Second was that Bowser Jr. was now considered Bowser's only child, and nobody else. The Koopalings were now just high-ranking minions in the Koopa Troop. They may be treated similar to children at times, but they're not Bowser's actual children. If they didn't completely dismiss the television shows as non-canon with the first mass exodus, this one would certainly put the nail in the coffin. But if Bowser Jr. truly is Bowser's only child now, what would happen to these guys? The Koopa Kids. Characters who from their very first appearance would directly refer to Bowser as Dad. Well, yeah, they'd kind of be completely erased from history. After this time, the Koopa Kids would only appear in the remaining Mario Party games for the next couple of years, likely because they were in development before this new, streamlined, money-making narrative by Nintendo was developed and published to the world. After that, the Koopa Kids would never appear in anything new ever again. And when I say never, I'm serious this time. Mario Party The Top 100, a game which remade some of the biggest and most famous Mario Party minigames of all time, including that tug-of-war one which caused real-life hand injuries. This game also remade the final boss battle minigame from Mario Party 4, a minigame which, in the original, featured the Koopa Kids. But in a rare move, even for Nintendo, the Koopa Kids would not just never be seen again like Bowser's father, mother, sister. No, the Koopa Kids would actually be replaced in a game they were originally in. This time, their spot would be taken by Bowser Jr. Yeah. The Koopa Kids are characters no more, no longer children of Bowser, and no longer is anyone else. Bowser Jr. is the one child that Bowser has, and the record has been set straight. But surprisingly, despite the gravity of this, the years of investment vanishing into thin air in an instant, this isn't even the last of the erased characters in this family, not by a long shot. But despite the tragic nature of losing these characters, there is one positive to come out of this. With there being only one biological child of Bowser, we only now have to look for one mother to speak of. There's no ambiguity anymore of if he had the different Koopa Kids with different partners. One key individual who bore the son of Bowser. But how do we find her? One option is to look for a Nintendo-published answer to this question. It's gotta be a common thing that fans bring up, they must have addressed it somewhere. So yeah, I don't think that's the answer people were looking for. Examining the games themselves, there doesn't seem to be a clear option there either. Again, Mario doesn't tend to go too deep with his story to try to stay simple. What we do know, however, is a character like this must have had one key attribute. This being that Bowser Jr.'s mother, whoever she was, needed to have some strikingly similar qualities to the biological parents who gave birth to Bowser himself. Not just in appearance, but in character, as Super Mario Sunshine revealed that she's been nowhere to be seen through pretty much all of Jr.'s life that he can remember. She did the same thing to Jr. as Bowser's mother did to him. Jr. has figured out that Peach isn't his real mama. Gee, I'm sure that must have taken a lot of hard thinking there, so he probably gets how his biological mother must certainly be a member of the Koopa species. He doesn't know who, but do we? There's a few options out there as to who Jr.'s mother could be. Speaking of those Mario RPGs, around the time of Bowser Jr.'s introduction, Kambi Koopa was introduced in the Paper Mario series as one of Bowser's closest advisors. The games treat her as Bowser's right-hand woman, being considered the brains behind Bowser. If we go with the idea that the Magic Koopas can be blood-related to Bowser's family that was implied before, she could legitimately be Bowser Jr.'s mother. There aren't many other female Koopas out there, so is this actually a viable option? Well, I don't think so. Paper Mario characters are shown to be completely different than the mainline universe. They built a whole game around it. Could she be the mother to Paper Jr.? I guess, but there's just as much evidence suggesting that she's Bowser's mother too. Like, there's not much here to go off of. While they don't outright say that Bowser Jr. isn't her son, they definitely don't support the possibility either. Cammy would never appear in a Mario game after this either, only getting a slight reference as a spirit in Super Smash Bros. So if there were plans to make this relationship more of a formal familial tie, those would have certainly been off the table by now. Another candidate that kinda came out of nowhere is Claudia Koopa. This is a character mentioned in a Nintendo Power UK magazine article, implied to be the wife of Bowser, and subsequently a front-running candidate for Bowser Jr.'s mother. This is crazy, how is this not a bigger deal? Well, that's likely because the writers themselves had to come out and say that Claudia was not an official character. Nintendo executives probably saw this and were pissed. You're making up characters and trying to ruin the story after all this time? Claudia was never mentioned by Nintendo media ever again after this incident, so I don't think she's exactly the mother that we're looking for. With all of these discrepancies and how difficult this is to solve, many fans have just flocked to the theory that Junior was adopted. And, I mean, it's a simple option that would explain why Junior's never seen his mother ever, why Bowser doesn't have a relationship with her in the series that we've seen, but I just have one little objection. When I show these two images side by side, right? Does this look like he's not Bowser's biological son? I mean, seriously, this doesn't happen by coincidence. These unsolved gaps, inconsistencies, and erased aspects of Bowser's family are continuing to contribute more and more to his quest for power and desire to establish a stronger sense of identity and lineage. He's found his 7 Koopalings, but is still yet to reunite with his brother. He needs Peach to, in his mind, give a sense of completion to a family that has been crumbling more and more over the years, even being broken before his birth, but for how long is the question? While Bowser may not know his biological parents anymore, with the release of Mario Party Advance, King Koopa interestingly seems to instead reveal knowledge of his grandparents. The quest Bowser accused in the game has the player enter King Koopa's mansion. Koopa Kid is still here at this time, one of his last appearances, but the key detail doesn't lie with him, it's with this clock. Fittingly a grandfather clock, a line in the game has Bowser mention how it belonged to his grandpappy, which, if he's telling the truth here, reveals a lot more than it might initially let on. Think about it, right? If Bowser's family is so broken, then why would he cherish an item from his grandfather with reverence like this? Bowser's supposed to be raised by Kamek now. Did he even know his grandfather? Or is it possible that, contrary to what Bowser's been led to believe, this is not really a clock from his grandfather? He may believe it is, but it's not. Bowser's been convinced by those who molded his psyche that his grandfather cared for him, that he's someone to be revered, maybe in an attempt to make him believe that his family isn't nearly as broken as he may make it out to be. Things are fine, Bowser, nothing to worry about, and whether it makes logical sense or not, Bowser needs to believe it. It's something that, for how small it really may be, it's something for him to cling on to. A sign that this goal, this ideal of his that he's been chasing for so long, this sense of completion to fulfill his dreams of this big happy family that rules the kingdom, isn't unattainable as many would make it out to be. What a lot of people don't realize though is this would not just be the first time that his grandpappy would be referenced, but it would also be the last. Bowser's grandfather would join the list of characters introduced and subsequently erased from the series lore in an instant. And if there was actually some deeper meaning like this intended at the time, then now it's been completely covered up. But Bowser's grandfather isn't the final family member that's been lost to history. For a family with this much story and lineage, to think its history wouldn't go deeper than 3 generations would be quite short-sighted. An unnamed ancestor of Bowser appears as a deceased Koopa King in the Super Mario Kun comics, who sets out to torture Mario for what he's done in fighting against the Koopa Troop in year after year after year. This guy at first glance kinda looks like an ancient Bowser when thinking about it, just now he's a pirate. Guess this comic was rated R. The Koopalings appear in this comic once again, and while Mario's duking it out with our boy Larry, he loses, dies, and is taken to hell. Well, this kinda took a turn, huh? Mario never loses like this. A crazy twist, which ends up being the setup for how he meets Bowser's ancestor in the first place. So I guess we've got our answer as to why all of Bowser's relatives that we've seen have had their fair share of issues with the law. Mario is to be punished by the Koopalings at the request of Ancestor Bowser, and in doing so, they make the ghost of Mario eat a piece of chocolate disguising a bomb. Yeah, Mario realizes this, and when Wendy Koopa lights the fuse and it looks to be all over, he runs to Ancestor Koopa, pleading with him, begging for help to be saved, until all of a sudden Mario burps, and the bomb's explosion expels out of his body into the face of Bowser's ancestor. Out of frustration, man says enough of this and uses his powers to kick Mario out of the afterlife, allowing him to live once again. Mario gets to live because his steady mushroom diet caused him to burp at just the right time. This series, man. It shouldn't be a shock to anyone at this point that Nintendo doesn't acknowledge this story anymore. The second mass exodus has hit. Bowser's ancestor has been kicked to the curb like his grandfather, like Koopa Kid, like almost everyone else. Or what if he wasn't? There's still one character introduced following this that has been pushed and promoted by Nintendo. He is a staple character in the Mario lore now, unlike almost everyone we've talked about today, but whose origins have been grainy at best to uncover. 2006 finally sees the introduction of Dry Bowser. New Super Mario Bros., the new game, now almost 2 decades old, sorry, I just had to put that reminder in there, features the same classic setup as the rest. The princess gets kidnapped, this time by Bowser Jr., and you've got to go through each of the worlds and castles trying to rescue her. Each this time featuring unique bosses, characters that have never been seen in the series before, with new abilities. Except for the fortresses with the exact same Bowser Jr. boss battle in all of them, what were they thinking? Outside of that, each castle features one of these bosses, except for the first. Unlike what we see often nowadays, where Mario's gotta best all the mini-bosses before the final showdown with the King of the Koopas, this game has you fight against and defeat Bowser right away. Bowser shoots some fire, but Mario, easier than ever, hits the switch and Bowser falls into the lava. It's over in World 1. So, is that it? Was it really that easy? $40 purchase is over in an hour? I didn't think this was a Kirby game. I expected to get a bit more content than that. Well, turns out it's not that easy. The princess is still not saved. Mario's got to go through battle after battle after battle, including that one with that tank that was impossible to hit, but all roads lead to World 8, and in the final castle, this happens. Bowser survived the fall in the lava, and he's back, throwing the only weapon he has left at Mario to try and stop him, his own bones. Ugh. The fight commences, the bones are thrown, the fire is shot, but Mario still wins. This surviving form of Bowser gets defeated. But this Mario game, while not really being new anymore, had new in its name at the time for a reason. It started the trend, which we see all the time now, making you think that you've beaten the game, you think it's all over, but there's more. The true final castle in this game is one of the best in the series, in my opinion. Challenge, unique elements like turning the frickin' room upside down, the multiple paths trope, which we see more going forward. Mario gets through all of this, he survives the onslaught, and he gets to the final boss door once again, and our annoying recurring rival, Bowser Jr., lies behind it. But he's not alone. Likely with the help of Kamek's magic, he's recovered the bones of Bowser once more. He throws them into a cauldron and... oh my. Bowser's back. He's been revived. The father and son duo finally get their goal that they've wanted for the whole time. They get to take down Mario once and for all, together. The battle commences and... yeah, this one was kind of a pushover. Mario hits the switch, stands tall, and saves the princess once again. But at the end of the day, it was pretty cool to see that Bowser was able to survive the lava. He made it out alive, not in his complete form, but he was still able to put up a fight getting completely revived, but wait a second. If Mario takes this secret cannon to skip the rest of World 1 and get to World 5, and doesn't fight Bowser, meaning he was never plunged into the lava, then why is Bowser in this dry form when you fight him in World 8? Siiroth, you're just overthinking it. It's a minor detail. Maybe Bowser canonically slips into the lava on his own in World 1, whether you show up or not. We shouldn't read too much into this. Bowser refers to his dry counterpart as a close family friend. What? Nah, that's just gotta be some deception on Bowser's part. It's very possible he's lied before. What makes it so different this time? Wait, so Dry Bowser says he's working for Bowser and Eggman, he's a henchman, and then you fight real Bowser right after defeating him. Kinda hard to be the exact same character there. I didn't see no magic potion this time. In game after game after game following this new entity known as Dry Bowser is shown to be a completely different character than the original. It's pretty much undisputed at this point. Regardless of if regular Bowser can be restored from a skeletal form or not, there is confirmed to be another one there. So who is he? And how does he potentially solve the biggest mysteries we've been wondering about the erased members of Bowser's family? Let's look at the candidates. Is Dry Bowser one of these deceased ancestors of Bowser? He's rotted bones that are clearly falling apart from him. There's no telling how old someone in this form could be. So, is it possible? Maybe, but like the Cammy situation, there's also no direct evidence for that either. It would also seem odd to him to just be thrown to the front lines like this, fighting Mario just as any other soldier. With the respect and reverence Bowser has held for elders in the past, it would seem kind of a weird position to put an ancestor in, no? Is he simply a minion unrelated to anyone else in the Koopa Troop? I highly doubt that, considering the prominent role in the family he's given, along with the strikingly similar design structure to regular Bowser. It's like the Bowser Jr. being adopted thing all over again. Is this guy really unrelated to anyone in Bowser's family? He tells the player that he's a close family friend, but his appearance would lend to him being something much more than that, and Bowser is covering up his true identity for his safety. Word cannot get out about who Dry Bowser really is, because it would reveal how truly close he is to Bowser and bring up a sore spot that's been digging at him personally for almost 40 years. Dry Bowser is Bowser's once thought to be deceased brother. Who else would Bowser put in the role of his last line of defense in game after game? There's that trust there. It explains why the revived version of Dry Bowser can look just like the regular, because he's a twin. Nintendo's rewritten history has the Koopalings as not Bowser's children, rather being just higher-ranking minions in the Koopa Troop, but their names imply something more. Real-life inspirations aside, if Bowser and Co found Larry, Wendy, and Ludwig hiding on the side of the road somewhere, what would explain the name behind Morton Koopa Jr.? It's odd, right? Being taken from his original family and brought under the leadership of King Koopa as almost an adopted child, everything about his past would get wiped and erased away, but his name still references a father. Why? Also, Morton is the only Koopaling with a drastically different color scheme than the others. Is there a reason for this? My theory is that Bowser's brother was the actual father of the 7 Koopalings. It's only after his demise in the Lost Levels that we see him team up with Bowser in Mario 3. But I'm sure that timing is just a coincidence, right? They're referred to as Bowser's kids in the text directly at the time because Bowser needs to make them feel like they have that father figure in their life. They were taken in by him, but as they get older and older, they begin to realize this was just a manipulation to make them feel more comfortable. Manipulation with intentions seemingly to help these kids, but also to help Bowser achieve his goals with the addition of 7 new members to his army, forcing them into battle in an unsuccessful move that Bowser's brother never did. Now that the Koopalings are older by 2003, they've grown up enough to accept the truth, that they are not actually Bowser's children. Larry, Wendy, Iggy, Roy, Lemmy, Ludwig, and Morton, the only one named after his father, Morton Koopa Sr., because he looked the most like him. Koopas of many species are shown to have differences in their color schemes, but Bowser's brother only had one child with the non-yellow tone that he did. Morton Koopa Jr. is named in memory of his father, Morton Sr., Bowser's brother. And when the Koopaling's father is finally recovered out of the rubble all these years later, just 3 years after they've grown to accept that they aren't Bowser's real children, it creates an impactful, joyful, yet tragic moment. Bowser's brother is back, functional in this form, but a form that needs to be covered up and hidden from everyone outside his family, because they know that losing him for a second time, to the Koopalings, would be a blow too strong to bear. A blow that would destroy the ominous aura surrounding this family. A blow that would allow the Mario Brothers to strike where they are emotionally their weakest, and stop Bowser's conquest once and for all. They take from Bowser in game after game after game, but now they can take it all. Bowser may be a flawed character, one who will expend any troop available to achieve his goal, no matter how sick and twisted the outcome may be. Because in his mind, he's doing the right thing for his family, restoring the legacy of the Koopa lineage to one that he's been told once existed, but one that possibly never did. Bowser's one to be stopped, one to take out, one to be feared, but let's not forget that he has fears of his own, as much as Nintendo may try and make it seem like these deeper motivations were never there. But now we know better. It's quite possible that their efforts to erase members of Bowser's family tree from history have only increased his motivation to achieve his goal. A goal which, if achieved, would cripple Nintendo's biggest cash cow as a whole. A series without simplicity, a puzzle without pieces, a villain without a hero.